Welcome to Sportpen. Today we're doing a deep dive into, well, a truly legendary moment in football history. The 1998 France national team and their incredible World Cup win right there on home soil. Leading up to that summer, there was this feeling, wasn't there? This sense that France had something potentially really special.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people were looking at them as, one of the strongest teams in Europe. They had this fantastic mix of experienced heads and just brilliant young talent coming through.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the names on that squad list. You had Zidane, obviously, Deschamps leading them, but then Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, just immense potential.
It really was. And you felt that optimism building across the country.
But, hosting is a double-edged sword. That pressure, it can be suffocating.
Yeah.
So despite all that talent, there were definitely doubts. Could they really handle it, perform when it counted?
And let's not forget the coach, Aimé Jacquet. He'd made some seriously bold calls, like leaving out Eric Cantona, which certainly got people talking.
Hugely controversial.
Right. But the research we looked at suggests Jacquet just had this incredibly deep belief in this specific group, in their collective ability. He felt they could handle the challenges. And apparently that confidence from him, even when maybe the players felt a bit nervous, that was crucial in building their own belief.
Okay, so let's trace that path then. How did they actually navigate the tournament? It started in Group C.
Yeah, and they got off to a pretty solid start, didn't they? A 3-0 win against South Africa down in Marseille.
But wasn't that Thierry Henry's first goal for France?
It was his very first international goal. Maybe a little foreshadowing there, huh?
You could say that. Then next up was Saudi Arabia. A much more comfortable win on paper. 4-0 at the Stade de France.
Yeah, Henry scored again in that one. Got two, actually. Trezeguet and Lizarazu scored as well. But that game, it wasn't all straightforward. There were red cards.
Right, one for Saudi Arabia, but crucially, Zidane got sent off for a stamp, wasn't it?
It was a moment of madness, really. And that meant he was out for the next two games. A massive blow, you'd think.
Yeah, losing your main creative force right then. How did they cope?
Well, they still managed to top the group. They beat Denmark 2-1 in Lyon. Jacquet made quite a few changes for that game, rested some players. Djorkaeff got a penalty, and then Emmanuel Petit scored the winner. So, job done. Group stage navigated.
Okay, so into the knockouts. And this is where things really started to ramp up. Round of 16 against Paraguay in Lens.
And this was a really tough one, super tense. It finished 0-0 after 90 minutes. And remember, they still didn't have Zidane back from suspension, and Dugarry was injured too.
You're really up against it. Had to dig incredibly deep.
And then history. Laurent Blanc, the defender, pops up in the 114th minute with the first ever golden goal in World Cup history.
Incredible moment. Just sheer relief, I imagine, more than anything.
Absolutely. Sent them through. So, next up,
Yeah.
the quarterfinals against Italy. A huge clash.
Zidane was back for this one, right?
Yes, he returned.
Yeah.
But it was another incredibly tight, cagey affair, very tactical, ended 0-0 again, even after extra time.
So, penalties. The ultimate test of nerve.
And France held theirs, won the shootout 4-3, just edged past Italy into the semifinals.
Where they faced Croatia, who were having an amazing tournament themselves. They had Davor Suker, who ended up as the Golden Boot winner.
A very, very good Croatian side. France won it 2-1 in the end, but again, not without some serious drama.
Ah, yes, the Laurent Blanc incident.
Exactly. There was that controversial clash with Slaven Bilic, and Blanc got a red card. Just unbelievable timing.
So the guy who scored the golden goal winner, their key central defender, was now suspended for the World Cup final. Another huge hurdle right at the end.
It really felt like they were constantly having to overcome something, didn't it?
So how did they keep doing it? What was the glue holding it all together? The research really points towards Jacquet again, his influence.
Yeah, beyond just picking the team, it seems his tactical thinking and, again, that relentless belief he instilled were just massive.
He wasn't just managing stars, was he? It was about creating a real collective.
Totally. And Didier Deschamps, the captain, he was the perfect leader for that kind of approach. The sources say Jacquet really emphasized that the team unit was everything. Sometimes players had to sacrifice a bit for the team's balance.
You could see it tactically, too. They mainly played that 4-3-3, but it could shift, couldn't it, into like a 4-3-2-1 sometimes?
Yeah, with Zidane and Djorkaeff tucking in, that helped them really dominate the middle of the park.
So control the center, force teams wide.
Pretty much. Now, some accounts we read mention occasional issues, maybe some gaps out wide sometimes, but generally that central control was key. Even against Brazil in the final, it forced them into areas where they weren't as dangerous.
And that team spirit, it wasn't just talk, was it? There are some great little stories.
Yeah, like the Fabien Barthez head-kissing thing. Apparently he was really taken aback when someone other than Laurent Blanc did it after a game, because that was Blanc's ritual.
That's how ingrained those little bonds were.
Exactly. Or Lillian Thuram just going absolutely wild with excitement after the semifinal win, basically tackling Barthez in the dressing room. It just shows that real sense of togetherness.
Led by Deschamps, built by Jacquet. A proper unit.
Definitely seems that way.
Now, before we get to the final itself, we absolutely have to touch on the Brazil situation.
Yeah.
Because leading up to that match, it was chaos, wasn't it? Especially around Ronaldo.
Oh, it was a global media frenzy, conspiracy theories flying everywhere. He was initially off the team sheet for the final.
I remember that, just hours before kickoff. Then suddenly he's back in.
Exactly. And the accounts from the time, plus later inquiries, they detail all sorts of allegations. Edmundo, another striker, claimed sponsor pressure Nike, specifically played a part in forcing Ronaldo to play.
Yeah, there was even a government inquiry back in Brazil, wasn't there? They looked into it, but ultimately cleared Nike.
Right. But other theories were swirling, too. Did he have some kind of nervous breakdown, a seizure? The details were murky.
What did the sources suggest was the most likely scenario?
Well, one perspective highlighted was that the team doctor, Lidio Toledo, didn't actually declare him unfit. Apparently, he later said something like he couldn't face the consequences if he stopped Ronaldo playing and Brazil lost.
Wow. What a position to be in.
Absolutely. And there's also criticism aimed at Brazil's coach, Zagallo. Some felt his choices were questionable, that the whole situation was poorly managed despite having such incredible players.
So all that turmoil formed the backdrop for the big one. July 12th, 1998, Stade de France. France versus the reigning champions, Brazil.
And France just rose to the occasion. An incredible performance. Zidane, back in the spotlight, totally bossed it.
He opened the scoring, didn't he, about 27 minutes in?
Yep, a header from a corner. One source mentioned Petit took the corner for that one.
And he wasn't done. Just before halftime.
Bang! Another header, another corner, almost identical. France going 2-0 up at the break. Just unbelievable.
The stadium must have been absolutely electric.
You can only imagine. And then to cap it all off, deep into stoppage time, Emmanuel Petit breaks through and slots home the third. 3-0. Dominance.
Zidane obviously got man of the match, France's first ever World Cup, and the first host nation to win it since Argentina back in '78. Just immense.
7th nation overall to win it. A historic night.
But the impact went way beyond football, didn't it? This win became this huge symbol.
Yeah, it was immediately hailed as a symbol of this new, diverse, multicultural France. The whole black blanc, bleu, black white, Arab phrase became iconic, representing the team's makeup.
And the celebrations. Just incredible scenes. Over 1 million people on the Champs-Élysées.
Singing I Will Survive, which kind of became the unofficial anthem of the whole thing. Just this massive collective outpouring of joy and, well, unity. They even projected Merci Zulu onto the Arc de Triomphe.
It felt like a genuinely unifying moment for the country.
For many, it really was. It was seen as this big win for multiculturalism, maybe a moment that could challenge some of the social divisions, the racism that existed. There was this hope, that the team's success, their diversity with Zidane as this figurehead, could actually lead to positive change, maybe give more value to minority groups in French society. Christian Carambeau, one of the players, talked about how the team just was France's diversity and people had to accept it.
But the research also points out that it was, well, maybe not quite that simple, that unity was perhaps more complex or maybe temporary.
Yeah, the sources are pretty clear that while the celebration was real, those underlying tensions around race, discrimination, they didn't just disappear overnight. Issues within French society and even within football itself, they persisted long after '98.
What kind of things are mentioned?
Well, things like discussions around alleged race quotas in youth development later on, players facing racial abuse, even violent incidents. And Lilian Thuram, who was obviously a key part of that '98 team, he became a really outspoken voice on these issues later in his career and after. He's talked a lot about the complexities of French identity, sometimes pushing back against that simple one France idea, even while cherishing the '98 victory.
And then there were later controversies too, weren't there? Like the 2010 World Cup meltdown and those comments linked to Laurent Blanc when he was coach.
Exactly. The research presents those as part of this ongoing, sometimes difficult conversation in France about football, identity, and race. It wasn't all solved in '98.
It's fascinating too how some sources look back even further historically. How sport, especially football, has been used in France over the years.
Yeah, apparently by different groups, the middle classes, way back, factory owners, the state itself sometimes is a tool for integration, getting people involved, but maybe also for instilling discipline or even a form of social control. It highlights how sport can kind of unite people, but also potentially be used in ways that manage or sideline certain groups. It's a complicated relationship.
So the legacy of '98 is obviously huge. First World Cup win, kickstarting a real golden era for French football.
Absolutely. They went on to win Euro 2000 as well, cementing that era.
And when you look back at what made that specific team so great, what did the analyses say?
It seems to boil down to a few key things. That incredible unity we talked about, real tactical flexibility, moments of just pure individual brilliance from Zidane, Henry, and others, and crucially, that resilience bouncing back from the suspensions, the tough matches.
We definitely have that. And the legacy flows right through to today, doesn't it, with Deschamps?
The captain from '98 becomes the manager in 2018 and wins it again.
Incredible story. Joining that tiny club of people who've won it as both player and manager.
Yeah, and apparently his coaching style in 2018, while different in specifics, still focused on that cohesive unit, making smart tactical adjustments like using Matuidi out wide or Giroud in that sort of false nine role, echoes of '98 perhaps.
So that '98 team gave France this unforgettable summer, this enduring image of triumph and unity. It was more than just winning a trophy. It really was a massive cultural moment.
Definitely. But as we've explored, the full story is richer, more complex, tied into those deeper questions about identity and belonging in France. It really makes you think, what is greatness in sport? Is it purely the winning? Or is it the cultural ripple effect, even when that effect is complicated? How do these iconic teams genuinely change the narrative?
Absolutely. It leaves you pondering, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How does that potent image of unity from 1998 square with the ongoing debates and challenges around identity in France that the research points to? What can sport realistically achieve in bringing a nation together, and maybe where do its limitations lie? Thanks for listening to Sportpen.